I was watching a video about the new atheists on the Apologetics Roadshow YouTube channel. I've seen a couple of his videos pop up. I tend to watch some religious videos. I grew up in the church. I am, for lack of a better word, an atheist. I think the problem, and in this one, he was talking about Richard Dawkins. And there was a conversation between Elon Musk and Dr. Jordan Peterson where they sort of laugh at the new atheists, which I totally get. The problem lies in when atheists argue against Christianity. Atheists are really comfortable arguing against Christianity because they're not worried about their necks getting slit or their houses being bombed. They tend not to argue so much against Islam, and if they do it in the confines of quietness and quietude, and don't do it in a big audience full of Muslims. They're very comfortable with going after Christianity and sort of Catholicism and things of that nature, but they stay away from religions that might have a violent reaction. So there's an inherent cowardice there. The problem is arguing against any religion as an atheist. The only thing you have as an atheist is that you don't believe in God. And that's it. You don't have to justify it. If a Christian has a problem with you not believing in God, that's the Christian's problem. If a Muslim, if a Scientologist, whatever. If anyone has a problem with you not believing in God, that's actually their problem. When I early on was I spent most of my life, I would say up until the early 2000s, not really caring about God or religion or irreligion, anything. I just didn't care one way or the other. What I saw in the problem, like I said, with arguing, when I embraced it, I joined a free thought association. And I will tell you, a free thought association full of non-believers is the most ironically named group ever, because I would go to these little meetings, and there were small meetings, and there were some that were a little bit larger. But here's what I'll tell you. All of them, with the exception of myself, that I could tell, thought the same way. They were all Democrats. They were all liberals. They very left. And this was kind of the early, going into 2010. Let's just say 2009, 2010. They were all adopting the LGBT thing. Anything that the left promoted, these atheists were on board with, which I found really strange, because got a phone call from my beautiful wife. I hope I can regain my train of thought. But even if I can't, my point, maybe it's a good thing, because my point was this. They seemed to exchange one dogma for another, and they all thought the exact same way. But the only thing in that group that they should have had in common is that you're just an atheist. You just don't believe in God. But what I saw in this group was a rejection of God. And that is a big difference. I truly, it's hard to convey this to someone. I can't help but be an atheist. And that's just it. To be honest, if I could believe in a God, I wouldn't choose Christianity. I wouldn't choose Islam. I wouldn't choose any sort of Judaism. If I could believe in God, I'd give my life to Odin. To be forthright, it was the God of my ancestors, some of my ancestors. And there's just as much evidence for Odin as there is for any other deity, at least in my opinion. But I am incapable of believing in any sort of God. And the way I've tried to explain it to a believer or two, because I've had this discussion a couple of times, is apparently my situation is a bit unique because when they've met non-believers in the past, it's been what they thought was a rejection of God, which I agree was a rejection of God. Mine is I can't believe in God. I grew up in the church. I was baptized around 10 or 11. I really felt it, but as I got older and around 17 years old, I left the church, and I would go back sporadically because of family functions or holidays or something. But it was never important in my life anymore. And to that point, I still, when I was younger and I was a little crazy, I had the long hair and I sang in rock bands and I was all over the place, and that was my life, and I was happy with that. And my daughter was born, and I think outside of the exception of the love I have for my mom, she was the first person I ever loved in the sense of that familial heart-to-heart love. I didn't feel it with my wife. I don't think I really felt it with my siblings. Well, let me clarify. I didn't feel it with my first wife. I didn't feel it with my siblings. I do feel it with my current wife, in case you see this. But that was the first time I had truly felt a really strong connection with a human being. And obviously, you know, evolution, science, all that plays into a role, but it truly felt more than that. Even though I was, you know, even though somewhere in my conscious mind I knew that, it seemed stronger than anything that could be explained. Still, though, I don't believe in God. And the way I try to explain it is, if you remember the story of the plagues being visited upon Egypt, there is a line in there about God hardening the hearts of the Pharisees so that even if they decided to acquiesce and believe in God, he pretty much made it, I gave you your chance, you didn't take that chance, no turning back. So whereas if you give yourself to God, and according to the New Testament, through his son Jesus Christ, you'll be accepted, no matter your sin. In this story, they had an opportunity to, via free will, chose not to. And once there was evidence that God was real and he was exacting these punishments upon the people who had enslaved his people, because there was evidence of him, he hardened their hearts so they couldn't change their mind. That is an amazing story, and that is how this is. I don't have the capacity for religious belief. So I don't argue with Christians. I don't tell them that they're wrong. I don't argue and say, well, here is the logical fallacy in whatever particular religion you believe in. Here are the plot holes in the Bible. Here are the contradictions in the Bible. Because if you look at it honestly, there are contradictions in the Bible and in the Quran and in the Upanishads and the Icelandic sagas. You can find contradictions. I think Christians are better than, I think most Christians are better because of their faith. I think most Christians are better than what they would be if they followed the tenets of the Bible. What's that cat's name? Christopher Hitchens had written a book called How Religion Poisons Everything. I've read it. And I don't think religion does poison everything. I think, like anything, it has the capacity to poison and corrupt if understood or used improperly or inscrutably. I think religion is a good thing. I think belief in God or gods or anything more more than you is a good thing, because to a degree, if you're truly a person with conscience, not like a Joel Osteen or a Ted Haggard or something, if you're a person with conscience, it humbles you. And you really do have that kind of God, faith, family sort of thing, that these things make you a better person so that you can be a better provider, figure, just friend to everything that falls below God and faith, which is family, friends, and etc. But it is really hard to explain to a believer that you're not an atheist out of bitterness, and that you're not an atheist because you reject God, that you're an atheist because you really honestly have no other choice, that you would like to believe, whether it be the Christian God or Allah or Odin, but you're incapable of it, and that you still lead a good life. I'm still faithful to my wife. I love being married. We've been married coming on 25 years. I have a daughter. I have a granddaughter. I think I try to live as good a person as I can be. I make mistakes like anyone else, and I have a guilty conscience. So there's a little bit of Catholic there that'll try to keep me on the straight and narrow. But I see these atheists and their arrogance, and honestly I see religious people in their arrogance, but I see these atheists and their arrogance thinking because they're an atheist that they figured out something that no one else did. And it's like, you just don't believe in God. But most of the time, it's not that they don't believe in God. They say they don't believe in God. They just reject God, and they reject the notion of God. Whereas, to be honest, when it comes to Christianity and the Christian God, and I see Christians who have this absolute love, and I see their faces light up, and I see them almost glow talking about their personal relationship with Jesus, I envy them. I envy their joy, and I would love to know that joy. But because of whatever reason, brain damage, cynicism, whatever, I'm incapable of giving myself to any sort of deity and adopting any religion. And I just wanted to share that, because most of it I see is either or, atheist or religious. We're right, you're wrong, and vice versa. If it works for you, it works for you, and I think that's great. And if you truly believe, then you truly believe. And I think that's really wonderful. And if it makes you a better person, then honestly, you're a better person for the planet, which is amazing. I just wanted to share this story with you. I don't really get a chance to talk to you guys kind of one-on-one. I'm either making ridiculous videos or whatever. But if you stayed and you listened to it, thanks for listening. I do really greatly appreciate it. And if you're a subscriber to the channel, thank you so much. Take care of yourselves. Good night.